Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. Today's conversation is about motherhood, marriage, and ministry, but taken to a level most of us can hardly imagine. We're chatting faith, family, and 11 children, how motherhood became Karissa Collins' superpower. Now, imagine being a parent and being pregnant most of your marriage, 18 years, 11 children, and still showing up with joy, purpose, and a radiant sense of calling. For Karissa Collins, motherhood isn't a limitation, it's a superpower. And in building what many call the Collins clan, she hasn't just created a family, she's created a movement. At a time when the average U.S. household has fewer than 2 children, and that's according to Pew Research in 2022, and birth rates have dropped nearly 20% since 2007, according to the CDC, Carissa stands out. But what makes her story extraordinary isn't just the number of children, it's the way she has turned family into faith, chaos into calling, and home into a hub of influence. Joining me now is Karissa Collins. She's a Texas-based photographer, author of 2 books, Bible study leader, homeschooling mom, business owner, and a mega social media influencer who uses her platforms to glorify God and inspire women to embrace motherhood with joy and purpose. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hi, thank you. I love the way you put that. I really appreciate all that.
Absolutely. You deserve a trophy. You're a trailblazer. I mean, let's chat about this. You've been pregnant most of your marriage. So statistically, most women in America today have between 1 and 2 children, and many delay or even limit childbearing due to career pressures or financial concerns. But you've chosen a very, very different path, welcoming 11 incredible children into your home over 18 years of marriage. That means you've been either pregnant or raising infants for most of your marriage, a reality that many feel is just unfathomable. So how has that shaped your identity as a woman, as a wife, and as a mother?
So most people probably don't know this unless you're following me like all the time, but I actually got married not wanting children. I didn't want
I
to
did not
be.
know. I did not know this.
I never wanted to be a mom. I got married with career in my mind. I always went to church and I went to Bible college. I was very strong in my faith and in the church. But I wanted to be a WNBA star. I wanted to be a professional singer. I had huge aspirations. And about 6 months into our marriage, me and my husband were in church. And the sermon was about faith and trusting God. And we had a 5-year plan. We weren't even going to think about kids for 5 years. I was on birth control. And the Lord just changed our hearts completely. And we were like, we trust God with everything except when to have kids and how many kids to have. And so that day I went off birth control and here we are. Now,
Wow.
it isn't that easy. We had lots of fights throughout the years. I ended up getting really sick. I got diagnosed with MS. I had heart surgery. All kinds of things happened in this process of having 11 kids, but ultimately we decided to trust the Lord through all of it. And I am so grateful that we did.
I think a lot of women listening and the ones that are going to be tuning in, whether they have 1 child or many, can relate to that idea of motherhood being both stretching and strengthening. And I love that you trusted God the way you did. So let's chat relationships with each child. Oh boy. So in a family of 11, I imagine every child carves out their own unique personality and role. Psychologists do note that birth order and family size can significantly shape personality development, from leadership traits in firstborns to creativity in middle children. So do you find common threads across your kids, or is each completely different? I mean, do some become helpers or even friends amongst their siblings than to you? And do you feel closer to certain children at different stages?
So it's so funny. I probably have 2 or 3 of each personality, which I actually love, because when we go out into the world, we have to deal with so many different personalities. And in our home, we have them all under one roof. Most of my kids are anywhere from 13 to 25 months apart. First and second child, they're best friends. My third and fourth child, they're best friends. My fifth and fourth child are best friends. And now my 10th and 11th, my 1 and 2 year old, are best friends. It's just so fun. as a mom, to watch their personalities grow, to watch their bonds. They have a really close relationship with each other. And it's really important for us to make sure that they keep that bond, because we're not going to be here as long as they'll be here for each other.
That's beautiful, because it does truly show that big families don't erase individuality. They actually highlight it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents listening and watching can take heart in how intentional you are about seeing each child for who they are. Now let's chat the aspirations of your children, of the Collins kids, if you will. So sociologists say children often model their parents' choices, right? But sometimes they rebel against them. So with 11 different personalities, I mean, you've got a spectrum of dreams under one roof. Do your kids talk about wanting large families of their own one day, small families, different career paths? And how do you encourage each one of them in their unique aspirations?
Yes. So ultimately, me and my husband, we do believe in trusting God with what our calling is in life. And we would love for our children to just simply trust God. Whether if that means God gives them one child or 50 children, ultimately we believe that's up to God. So my children, I have some that say they want 100 kids and they wish I had 100 kids. And then I have a son who at one time said he didn't want to get married and he didn't want any children. But their view of life and their wants and desires change. I don't ever discourage them from having their own mind or their own wants and desires. We simply just teach them what we believe, and they get to ultimately make that decision. I don't ever want my faith to be their faith, or like my religion, my decisions to be theirs. I want them to make their own decisions and to know God themselves. So I do have like a bunch of kids with all kinds of dreams and desires. So now my son that didn't want kids or to get married, now he is like set for the NBA. He is like full force NBA star. Wants to get married and wants to have children. And like my girls all have like a desire number of children they want, but they at the end of the day say they want to trust God with that. But things change year to year. Everybody changes their minds, and they like as we grow, we like I said, when I got married, I didn't want any children, and here I am now. As we get closer to God, our dreams and desires will change to His.
And how old is your oldest and how young is your youngest?
My oldest is 15, and my youngest just turned 1.
Now, love story between you and your husband. So behind every big family is a marriage holding it all together. So how did you meet your husband? And when you got married, you said you did not want any children, but did you both envision having this many children? Or, I mean, talk to me.
We actually met in the club, which is crazy to people that know me. My husband had never gone to the club. That was his first night. He played basketball and his team made him go. And I went to the club to witness to people about God. I know it sounds crazy. Um, and I never had a boyfriend. I was 21 when I met him. I had never had a boyfriend, never kissed, never done anything. Like I was super pure. And my husband, so like I was super naive. I danced with every guy, like gave them my phone number. I'm not joking, because I was hoping to like win them over to Christ. Like I was really naive, okay?
I,
Only one person ever called me. And guess who that is? My husband.
of
But
course.
he called me and he asked me about God. He told me he was a Sunday school leader. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have to meet this guy. Like, nobody's ever approached me about God, you know? It was literally love at first sight. Like, I fell in love with him the day I met him. And 2 years later, we got married. He wanted, I think, 2 or 3 kids. And I had said, I can't really remember how many kids I wanted, but I didn't really want children that badly. Motherhood didn't look appealing to me. It didn't look like fun. My mom had to sacrifice everything for me and my sister. I came from a family of 2. He came from a family of 3. And so we did not envision this life. This is not when we got married, we never thought, oh, we're going to have 11 children. We've been paycheck to paycheck for 15 years of our marriage, maybe 16. And within the last 2 years, my husband started his own business, and we have like had some comfort financially. But it's been a struggle, and that does bring us closer. We do share the same faith. We trust God with our finances and to provide for the children that He gives us. And so that has definitely built our marriage. But we wake up every morning and we'll just be sitting outside watching our kids play, and we're like, we don't deserve this amazing life. Like, you couldn't ask for a better life. It's literal pure joy to just sit there and watch your children play together and just know that these are your children. It's just, we're still in awe of it.
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
Aw.
So let's chat about that. Let's chat faith, family, and your business. So you're not just a mom to 11, you're also an author, a boutique owner, a health entrepreneur, a digital content creator. And studies do show nearly 65% of mompreneurs struggle with burnout. Yet you've turned your life into a platform that uplifts others. So how do you practically balance faith, family, and business without losing yourself or your joy in the process?
Yes, doing all of those things without children is hard. So doing them with 11 children, it can be overwhelming. I do have seasons of like I have to stop everything and just be a mom and just do like focus on my family. But ultimately, the key that I believe to maintaining all of it is simply putting God first, waking up every day and making sure my relationship with God is right. Because when I sacrifice my relationship with God, everything else gets sacrificed in the process. I will not be 100% for all the other things. So if our cup isn't full, then we can't pour out. And the only way to fill your cup, which I truly believe, is to be in that quiet place and have that relationship with the Lord and allow Him to fill you up so you can pour out in everything else. I do put my family before all the other things. I started social media simply because when I got married, me and my husband, we were on birth control. Like, we were just planning our own life. And when the Lord took me to see what His heart is, I was like, this is so much better than my plans. His plan is the best plan that I could never have thought of. I would never have dreamed of 11 children. Like, it wasn't even like a tiny thought in my mind. And so I started social media to just share that, to share what God's been teaching me and the journey that He's brought me on, and just to be like, there's a better way than what you think is best.
That's refreshing. It truly is. Now, when people picture a mom of 11, they assume there's no space left for individuality. But identity beyond motherhood is critical for well-being. So do you ever take time for just yourself, whether it's a girls' night out, a date night with your husband, or even a quiet moment alone?
Yes, definitely. So my husband and I, we try to do at least one date night a month. Lately, it's been more like two a month. I also have a women's trip. So I run a Bible study. So I do have a group of women that I do community with. And we actually have a huge women's trip coming up in 2 weeks that we're super excited about. We're running an Airbnb, and we're all going to stay there. So yes, I also play pickleball with my husband. We do pickleball tournaments and
Oh,
stuff.
I love that.
And
So you do the night out, you carve out time for hubby, you're going out on vacation, you're definitely taking care of yourself, which leads me into the next question. I just want to be mindful of our time. So the clean living, toxins, there's a lot of buzzwords going on in today's culture. There's so much conversation around toxins in the household, clean eating, and even debates about things like chemtrails. And families are bombarded with choices, sodas, sugary drinks, or clean living alternatives. And it can really feel overwhelming. I mean, the wellness industry in the US alone is now valued at over $450 billion, which shows how many people, in fact, are searching for better, healthier ways to live. So do you personally buy into the toxin-free, clean living approach? I mean, what does that look like in your household when it comes to things like sodas and beverages and everyday choices? And do you talk to your children about health in a world where like the chemtrail conversation is just as loud as the wellness one?
yes, we talk about this, I think, daily. I do buy into it. It is overwhelming. I did have a season where I got rid of everything toxic, and my house was like organic and all of that. And it's hard to keep up with. I will say that. Your clothes don't feel like they get super clean, and your dishes that might not feel like they're clean. So I have had to balance my choices on that. So we like use only clean products. We don't drink soda. I limit candy. And I noticed that their health changes when they eat sugar and they drink sugar. So I do have rules. They're not allowed to, like, they do get paid for helping with our businesses. They're not allowed to use their money on sugar and soda. Now I also believe that if you go too far, your kids will then leave your house and they will like overconsume those things. So I do them all in limits, but in my home, we try to do no soda, no sugar.
Yeah.
We keep the chemicals like only to the things that we need. So
To a minimum, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you make it forbidden fruit, like you
Yeah,
said, they're
yeah.
just gonna go out and do it anyhow. So
Yeah.
you can't really do that. And I love that because it reminds us that clean living isn't just about being extreme. It's about that balance. And it's also about being intentional. And I think a lot of families listening feel encouraged knowing it's possible to make healthier choices without losing the balance or the joy. So which brings us to an incredible conclusion. Thank you so much for joining me today. Your perspective, your insight on life and how you balance it all. It's truly, it was so rewarding to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And for those who want to follow along and be inspired by her journey, you can check her out on TikTok and on Instagram and on YouTube at the Collins Kids Family. On TikTok, it's the Collins Kids. And of course, on Instagram, the Collins Kids Family. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this. This was the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.